Long Beach, California, this is GovLove, a podcast about local government, brought to you by Engaging Local Government Leaders. I'm Meredith Reynolds, Deputy City Manager of Long Beach and GovLove co-host. We have a great episode for you today. We're talking with Ryan Kurtzman and Gati Wankyo about the Long Beach Civic User Research Case Study. But first, the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. ELGL is a professional association engaging the brightest minds in local government. Check us out and learn more about membership at elgl.org. Now let me introduce today's guests. Ryan Kurtzman is the Technology Partnerships Officer for the City of Long Beach Technology and Innovation Department. He oversees the city's technology pilot programs, leads data privacy and AI governance efforts, and supports strategic initiatives for the department. Prior to that, Ryan served as the city's Smart Cities Program Manager, where he developed community programs and policies that leverage new and emerging technology to improve connectivity, mobility, digital equity, and economic outcomes for all residents. Before that, Ryan served as a policy fellow for Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti, where he brokered partnerships and created program evaluation tools to advance the city's Great Streets Initiative and park equity goals. He graduated from UCLA with a master's degree in urban and regional planning with a focus on transportation policy and planning, and currently serves as an adjunct professor at the USC Sol Price School of Public Policy. In his free time, Ryan enjoys being outdoors, reading sci-fi, and thinking up new elaborate dinner recipes. Gati Wankyo is the training coordinator for the City of Long Beach Technology and Innovation Department. Gati is responsible for managing the department's training and development programs, including coordinating the citywide cybersecurity training, offering professional development opportunities, and tracking and coordinating other mandatory training for department employees. Prior to working in learning and development, Gati worked in the Long Beach Recovery Office, providing administrative support. She also served as the racial equity champion for both the City Manager's Office and the Technology and Innovation Department, supporting the implementation of the City of Long Beach's Racial Equity and Reconciliation Initiative, which included facilitating Racial Equity 101 training sessions and developing department-specific racial equity action plans. In her free time, Gati enjoys attending concerts, reading mystery books, and playing video games. Welcome to GovLove, Ryan and Gati. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to be here, Meredith.
I'm very excited because it's not often that I get to do a GovLove podcast with my colleagues. So I got to work with Gati in the Long Beach Recovery Office, and Ryan and I both started in Long Beach in the Long Beach Management Assistant Program. So we've known each other for a long time, and I think they have done some fantastic work I can't wait to tell people about today. But first, let's have some fun with a lightning round to get to know you better. All right, y'all ready for this? Okay, so Ryan, we'll start with you. What was the first music album that you owned?
My first album was one called Drive by Incubus. I don't know if you remember the artist. Yeah, I
do.
Really into like alt rock as a teenager. Yeah.
Very cool. Gati, what about you? I feel like I should know the answer to this.
I feel like it won't be surprising at all. My first album was the Millennium CD by the Backstreet Boys, which then fueled my lifelong obsession with boy bands. So
got it.
It's very on brand.
It's very on brand. I would have guessed Jonas Brothers, but that's probably your second album, right?
They were the precursor, and that led me to the Jonas Brothers.
Got it. Awesome. Gati, what is your go-to snack food?
I love Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Yeah, I could just keep on snacking on that all day.
Orange fingers for the rest of your life, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I have hand wipes that if I'm gonna eat those chips, I need hand wipes like right next to me.
Smart. Ryan, what about you? What's your go-to snack food?
I try not to keep too many snacks around because I will just eat all of them. So lately it's been a lot of healthy stuff. I've been into edamame, carrots. This is like the opposite of Gati. Bananas.
Much better answer.
Almonds. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to be like kneading something with my fingers and eating it, I want it to be something somewhat healthy, but I don't know. This could all change with the holidays. Who knows?
Smart move. All right, Ryan, what's the last movie or TV show you watched?
Yeah, I've been really into the new Dune show, Dune Prophecy on HBO.
Hmm.
Yeah, I read Dune for the first time during the pandemic, all 650 pages or whatever, and I got really into it. Loved the movies, and now there's a show on HBO, so it's great. I just have to find someone to play the Dune board game with me. Um, so if you know any board game people, please let me know. It is like a 3 hour commitment though, so that's probably why I haven't had anyone to play with.
Well,
Yeah.
we can put the bat signal out on through the ELGL network, and I'm sure we'll find somebody who will play the Dune video or Dune board game with you.
Yeah. Perfect.
Awesome, Gati. What about you? Last movie or TV show you watched?
I just went and saw Wicked in theaters.
Mm.
The new movie adaptation of the musical, which is based on a book, but it was phenomenal. I loved it. I love the musical on stage, and seeing the
Hmm.
movie was, it was amazing. So yeah, definitely recommend.
Awesome. All right, and last lightning round question, Gati. What is one thing you love about Long Beach?
There's so many things. I know that's, easy to say, but I really love the coffee shops. You can really find a really cool, unique coffee shop at almost every corner, and that's probably one of my favorite things.
Awesome. Ryan, you're into the coffee culture too. Is yours the same answer? Or do you have a different answer about what you love about Long Beach?
Yeah, I mean, I do love coffee a lot. I definitely have like a list of like a ranked list of coffee shops in Long Beach. No, I was gonna say my favorite thing about Long Beach. This is so random, but I love that foghorn that you hear in the morning sometimes. I don't know if
Okay,
you know what I'm talking about.
explain this. I do. Explain this to our listeners because we are an oceanfront community in Southern California with very normalized weather. So explain the foghorn.
Yeah, well, maybe you can go back in and edit the foghorn into the recording. But yeah, I mean, so Long Beach is a city that's on the ocean. We also have a large port, and I actually don't know much about it, but I used to live closer to the beach, and I would hear this faint foghorn noise sometimes in the morning. It just reminded me that like I live by the beach, that like it just made me think of like a dark, mysterious, like Edgar Allan Poe poem. I don't really know. I miss it though. I don't live close to the beach anymore, so I don't get to hear that beautiful foghorn. Sad.
Yeah, very LA noir, right? The fog rolls in. There's the ships off the shore. They need that
Yeah.
foghorn to understand where they are at in proximity to the port. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That was a deep cut, but yeah, anyways.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for having some fun with us for the lightning round. Let's shift a little and talk about kind of what we're here to talk about and how you all got into this user civic research space. But let's take it back. Let's take it back to your local government origin story. When did you first catch the public service bug, and how did those experiences lead you to your work today? And Ryan, we'll start with you.
Yeah. You know, I think for me it wasn't something that I set out to when I was like a little kid. Like I don't have that experience of like, going to the public library or the public park or anything like that. I mean, I did do those things, but I didn't really even know like local government was a career that people could have when they were adults. So I think for me, after college, I was working in the private sector. I was doing some consulting work. I was working for a startup. I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And when I was there, I really loved the sense of community that I saw around me. I was actually, ironically, working at a coffee shop on the weekends. Um, yeah, yeah. And I loved just like interacting with people and getting to know them a little bit. And I really wanted to learn more about how cities worked and like how cities became these places to foster interactions and like create positive experiences. So that I ended up pursuing my master's in urban planning and moved out to LA. And my first job in public service was working for the former LA mayor, and it was really the first time that I felt connected to what I did. I loved that
Mhm.
I was able to make an impact on communities, on people's lives. I felt so downstream, and able to touch, like, different aspects of neighborhoods and places. So I think from then on, I kind of knew that I wanted to be in public service, that I wanted to work in local government. I really do think it's the space where you can make an impact, and you can also bring a lot of yourself into it as well, and your own values. So yeah, I think that's sort of what got me to where I am today.
Awesome. And Gati, what about you? How did you catch the public service bug?
Yeah, like Ryan said, I didn't know that local government was a job that you could do. I had no idea, I think, for a long time that all that local government agencies do and all the different departments and services that they offer specifically and how it's different from the different county levels, federal levels. So, but when I moved to California back in 2017, I saw that there was a lot of parks and recreation jobs that were open, a lot of part-time kind of summer jobs, and I thought that was really cool. So I started working in with the Parks and Recreation Department at the city of Irvine, and I loved it. I thought it was so fun. I thought it was really cool that my job was to just make sure people were having a good time at the park. That's how I looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was just like, okay, how can I continue doing anything like this? And learning as much as I can about local government and, the different services that are offered, the different jobs I could get into, because I like this idea that my entire goal of my job is to make the lives of the residents better for the city that I work in. And that's really what made me catch the bug. I think just starting in the Parks and Rec department, just seeing these people day to day and working at their, birthday parties and, working with the athletics, things like that, of just having that face to face interaction with residents was really cool. And yeah, it just made me want to make that my career.
Yeah. Well, and it's Gati and I have a lot in common. I used to work for the city of Irvine as well. But one of my favorite stories about meeting Gati, when we were starting the recovery office, we needed some administrative support. And I've never done this before, but I took an interview with Gati with terrible Wi-Fi in my car, and she took a chance on us, and I really appreciate that.
It was so cool. I love that. I love that memory too. But yeah, it was a great decision. You convinced me.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have you here as a part of this team. Are there any particular notable experiences that have led to some key learning moments for you?
Yeah. When I joined the recovery office with the city of Long Beach, I provided the administrative support for several programs across the city department. So it was a really cool way to learn about the city and the different processes in a very quick way, but also to collaborate with different city staff across the city that I typically wouldn't in a different role, which I really liked. I really enjoyed and really learned that value of collective impact. I know that was something we talked a lot about
Mm-hmm.
in the recovery space, and definitely something I've brought along into my current role as well. That power of collaboration and breaking down the barriers in between departments, in between bureaus and different teams. And what I've also really enjoyed is working as a racial equity champion for the city manager's office and then for the technology department, because working for racial equity and really promoting these efforts for the city has really been a passion of mine, and has been very valuable. Even though it is emotional and heavy work at times,
Mm-hmm.
it's been really great to make space for that in the work setting, which it's been really powerful. And I think working in that space as a champion has also kind of bled into my other work as well, and made me think about how are we thinking about racial equity in all of our other programming, not just specifically the racial equity action plans. How are we thinking about it in learning and development, now that I'm working in training? How are we making sure that our programs are equitable and accessible to all employees? So I think that's really been a big highlight of my career.
Excellent, excellent. And what sorts of work have you been responsible for, Ryan, in your career? And are there any particular notable experiences that have led to some key learning moments for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been with the city of Long Beach for over 6 years. Time definitely goes, it flies, honestly. I've gotten to do a lot of really amazing work and definitely, been out of my comfort zone at times and did things I never thought I would do. I remember when I started at the city, I began as a management assistant, kind of like you, Meredith. So I was able to rotate through different departments and learn a little bit about how they all worked, like our city manager's office, our budget office, and eventually our technology and innovation department. Um, so that was a great way just to get exposed to things. I will never forget experiences like the police ride along that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have never been something that I signed up for on my own, but I think being kind of not forced, but encouraged to do a ride along with the police officer was a really good way for me to learn about something that I just made some assumptions about or wasn't really quite sure how that worked. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one experience that kind of stands out to me. Another one was when I was beginning my work in the technology and innovation department as our smart cities program manager. I was kind of asked to start our smart cities program from scratch. We didn't have one before. Few cities were thinking about technology in this sort of strategic way and thinking about the positive impacts it could have on communities. And, I remember just having to be really thoughtful with how I approach this with people. And I got a lot of no's, a lot of like, why do we need this? Like, my computer's not even working. Like, why do we need sensors and stuff everywhere? But I really learned how to be scrappy, and how to fight for things and kind of how to get things done by making a compelling case for why people should care about them. And that really taught me that a lot of what we take for granted in government, like, wasn't always there. Like, we didn't always have an Office of Climate Action and Sustainability in Long Beach, or we didn't always have a racial equity program. Like, those things started because people cared about them, and they made it their goal to prioritize those things. So I think a lot of what we do is fungible, and like everyone has a role to play in advocating for things that they believe in. Yeah, a couple other things. I get such joy out of talking to community members, honestly. Like when I'm out there and at a park or, doing tabling to get people to come to a workshop or an event, like just getting to talk to like Long Beach residents, like just, everyday people, like going about their lives really puts the work into perspective. And anytime I feel like I'm getting like cabin fever in my office or at my desk or at City Hall, I'm like, okay, let me just like go for a walk, like go to the community center and like talk to somebody. So that really kind of grounds what I do, and is a big reason why I still love working for local government.
Yeah, that's really great. Well, and I know both of you recently gave a presentation about civic user research, and that garnered so much attention and excitement on our social channels with what we call our pocket friends, right? So people that we don't know in person, but we know on social media or LinkedIn or whatever. Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about that presentation and as a way to segue into what is civic user research and what does this help the city do?
Yeah, so a couple months ago, Gati and I gave a presentation on this topic of civic user research. And everyone's probably like, what does that even mean? Essentially, civic user research is a practice or a technique or basically a set of tools for the city to learn about the behaviors, needs, and motivations of our users. And in the case of government, it's our constituents. We conduct civic user research by, speaking with people, interviewing them, having them conduct surveys, and we use the information that we glean from the research to design better products and services. Um, I think often in government, you know, historically, we've kind of designed things in a bit of a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
I think often we think, oh, well, we're government. We don't have any competitors. Like, we're just going to put this service out there, this product out there. And it doesn't really matter how good or bad it is because we're the only one providing it. Like, we're the only one providing parks services in our city, or the only one providing, a portal to pay parking tickets. But that kind of thinking is really toxic and kind of like it does not it's not conducive to innovation when we're not always thinking about designing for our end user. So that's where civic user research comes in, and that's really why the city of Long Beach has prioritized civic user research, because we want to design better products and services that meet the needs of our constituents and are designed with everyone in mind, and particularly individuals who maybe don't traditionally access city services or have differing abilities or other experiences or come from other cultures. Um, Individuals for which city services are not typically designed for. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what civic user research is. And I think we're really excited about it because we think that it will lead to better products and services and ultimately better outcomes for people that live here and work here.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that comes to my mind about this field of asking our constituents, how they would use something or what they think about something, is it also shifts the paradigm of that was very much a part of all of my learning and some of my early like career culture is like you in the government are hired based on experience or skill and education, and you're supposed to know things, right? And sometimes we just don't. I know what my experience is, but I don't know what other people's experience is. And so we've been trained in many cases to make assumptions based on generalities when that doesn't lead to a higher percent of people, say, accessing a service or using a piece of technology that our city's pushing out, and being able to be in a space to say, we don't know, but we know who does, and we can go ask them, and we can allow that to inform the way in which we alter and provide services at the city level. Because so much of being in the public eye is there's this pressure of my taxes pay your salary, and so you can't fail, you can't mess up, you can't try and iterate things, you have to get it right the first time. This is a completely different way of thinking about how we plan for our community.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think back to an example, not to put our technology and innovation team on blast, but when we rolled out our updated 311 app called Go Long Beach,
Mm-hmm.
which residents can use to report potholes and bulky items and other things in the built environment. It had a terrible rating on like the Google Play Store, the Apple Store, and we were getting a lot of feedback like this isn't designed for Androids appropriately, or like some of the language, translations aren't correct. And
Mm-hmm.
I use that as an example all the time when I talk about the importance of civic user research. And I'm not saying that if we had done civic user research, it would have changed things and led to a great product. But I can say that when you take the time to talk to people, to learn about their needs, it helps to build an empathy and understanding of who we serve, which does lead to better products and services for the public.
Yeah, and that
And
311 thing also was, really innovative at the moment that it came out, and it was not perfect by any means. But it's just one example of how a city can iterate over time and make things better.
Yeah.
yeah, and I know some listeners may be, like you mentioned, asking, well, what even is this? This may be new concept, and I think I'm a testament to it's okay to start from having no idea, because I really did not know what it was until I started working with Ryan's team on this, and it. I think once you start learning about civic user research, you'll find that you actually are familiar with some of the steps that actually go into it. Then
Hmm.
you might then you might think you are familiar with. And it's really just kind of a title, but the practice, you've probably put some steps into it already. So yeah, I think it was really cool to learn about, and also trying to kind of encouraging other people like, no, you do have the skills and capabilities to do this yourself as well. And so, yeah, it's not as intimidating as it may sound.
Right. Well, and just the basic fundamentals of ask and listen. Just as a basic human with your constituents or your population, and what do you glean from that? What do you learn from that? And then how do you let that inform whatever it is you're working on? Is a pretty basic uh, human activity, right? So
Mhm.
I love that it's not that complicated, right? Even though it has a fancy name.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Ryan, you brought up the 311 example with our Go Long Beach app, but you have a couple examples of civic user research in practice. Let's talk about the civic user research playbook. So, what is it? How is it developed, and how is it used? Because I know that's a big thing that we've been talking about lately in our city, as well as to others in local government across the country.
Yeah, so the Civic User Research Playbook is kind of our one-stop shop of resources to help staff in our city understand what civic user research is, highlight why it's important, and then provide easy ways for our staff to actually incorporate it into their day-to-day work. So we had someone work on this last fall. It was about a 3-month project. And there were some examples in the government context of other cities that had kind of embarked on developing a civic user research playbook. So we looked at cities like the city of actually Asheville, the city of Boston, the city of Chicago was a leading example. We also took a lot of cues from the private sector as well, and from the kind of the whole school of like design thinking or design research when the playbook was being developed. So, in addition to that, we also spoke to our own city staff to develop it. We got a sense of, hey, like, what are some of the reasons why you don't engage residents when you're designing your product or building a service? Is it a cost thing? Is it a capacity thing? Is it just like there's no incentive sort of thing? So we took both the external research and then the direct engagement with city staff to put together the Civic User Research Playbook. And it exists as a resource in perpetuity. It's meant to be kind of an evergreen thing. It's on our internet site, so it's actually publicly available, and it's also on the city's internal website as well. And yeah, again, it's like best practices. It provides real use cases and examples. So we have a lot of like templates in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we have templates on designing an interview script to do an interview with a resident. We have templates for designing a research plan. We have templates for data analysis and synthesis. So it's meant to be very very cut and paste, I would say. So you don't really need to start from scratch when you're thinking about it. Yeah, and it's also modular too, because no one likes to read an 80-page PDF document
Right.
or printout. So people can jump around to different sections. Like, maybe you already know what it is, so you don't need to read the get started section, or maybe you just want to learn about how to recruit civic user research participants. So maybe you just jump to that section. So yeah, we're really excited about it, and I hope that we can keep iterating on it and that we can keep exploring ways to get it out in front of our staff and getting them excited about it.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool tool, I must say, but I'm always really proud of what we produce in our city. But I think it's having been informed by a number of these best practices and by the staff who kind of experience this every day is a really great thing. Kind of practicing what you preach, right? You're saying go out and ask people and let that inform, and you all did that as a method of creating the playbook, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So Gati, let's shift to you here. So there's this playbook. We're working on developing it and figuring out how to then translate that into the training opportunities that go with it, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the circumstances that led to the work on the Civic User Research Learning cohort.
Yeah, it was a really cool journey to get to the cohort, which was a really exciting opportunity. At first, someone from Ryan's team actually reached out to and let me know that this playbook was being worked on. It's going to be rolled out soon, and we really wanted to have a training, maybe a training session, a training course. We didn't really know what it would look like that could be facilitated for city employees and come out around the same time as the playbook. So that way there was an actual, training going along with the playbook that they could reference. And, but, it was still kind of a newer practice to our city. So we were looking externally for a vendor maybe to facilitate this training session. And someone put us in contact with the U.S. Digital Response, and this is a nonprofit organization that works with government to ensure that that they have the capacity to meet the public's needs. So they support several governments on things like this, civic user research. So we met with them, and then they actually came to us with the idea of having instead of just one training session, one training course, having an actual learning cohort that spanned over 10 weeks, which was an actual taking the training and putting it into practice, which was a great idea. We had a really great time. It became a much more extensive program than what we were expecting at first, but we got to involve different departments. We got to have a one-on-one session to kind of kick off the cohort that everyone in the city was invited to. So that kind of gave us a baseline of what is civic user research, and then here's this cohort that you can apply to be a part of. And then we ended up selecting 5 departments to go through the cohort, where they partnered with U.S. Digital Response volunteers that are experts actually in civic user research, and worked together on a project that helped on an issue that was relevant to their department, and to getting the city's the community's feedback and on how to improve those current programs and services, and how to better design them for the department. And it started off with this small idea, but it turned into something much larger, and I'm really happy with the results.
That's awesome. Well, and it sounds like applied learning, right? So it's even sort of exponentially beneficial in that sense, because people not only know what it is and kind of how it works, but then they actually got to try it out, which I think is really neat. So in this space, you talked a little about it, the 10 weeks and how the program's structured. How did the cohort members collaborate to solve problems, and what benefits have you gained from this cohort?
Yeah, so like you said, it was cool to have this applied learning, but also I think just having the cohort structure was truly beneficial. When it comes to training with any type of content, cohort learning has proven to be really effective, because you're all going through this process together and get to learn from each other, like you said, collaborating. And so we had kind of 2 sides to it. We had the city employees that were the project leads, that were able to communicate with each other and check in with each other in our check-ins and our meetings. And then we had the volunteers on the USDR side that also kind of had their own platform where they work together and ask questions and problem solve. And then, I kind of was the middle person working with USDR to kind of bridge that gap of, where do we need to step in and provide additional support. But using, just the virtual tools of like Teams, and I know USDR used Slack, was really helpful to have this collaborative space of like, okay, we're having some issues with our survey, or does anyone have any tips? Just having that forum online was really helpful for people to talk with each other. And then having those midpoint check-ins too, where we got to see how is it going so far, and where do we need to course correct and maybe change the project scope, which also happened as well. Just kind of having that communication in between all the different teams and the different volunteers was really helpful to get to the end of the study.
And how many groups went through the cohort? You said 5 departments, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, there were five departments with 5 specific projects. Like one that was mentioned, I know, was 311, the Go Long Beach app. That was one of the projects. The Long Beach Library was also involved with it, and their digital resources, which was a really cool project as well. And just, again, getting that community's feedback, whether it was from surveys or user testing, to see how are the residents actually using our services. How can we better design them so that it's actually effective and helps them get the information that they're looking for.
So with those 5 cohorts, what is some of the early returns for what we're seeing out of the 5 cohorts? How are they actually making services better?
Okay. So I know with the library, I think one thing that we learned that was cool was how to reach out to our residents and get this information. So a highlight I think that was really cool from the library was the response that they had from their survey. They actually had reached out to their library card members and sent out this survey, and then they had over, I think, 2,500 responses, which someone that does surveys often, that number was shocking to me that
Right.
many people answered it. So that was really cool, and I think it made us, it made employees become more creative about reaching out to people and like trying to find different ways just reaching out to users and getting their input than the traditional ways that we have in the past, or also by not doing it at all, which has been an option as well. So I think that was a really cool experience of getting to think about what is the best way to get this information.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Reynolds,
I'll just add another project that we conducted civic user research on that actually was not part of the cohort, but was still something that we did was on our chatbot. So we have a pilot of a AI-based virtual assistant chatbot, and we did civic user research by interviewing 10 Long Beach residents earlier this year, before it was put out on the main website live, to understand their feedback and get their thoughts on it. And we directly took what we learned from those interviews and applied it to the next iteration of the chatbot, which is now publicly available. So we made quality of life and user experience improvements, like improving the size of it, making it more visible. We updated some of the code on the back end as well to make it provide more accurate responses and to scrape our website more frequently. So yeah, I mean, it really depends on the team and what they're willing to do with the information, but I think teams would be foolish not to use information gathered from civic user research to improve their product or their service.
Yeah. Well, and I love our new chatbot LB.
Yes.
That's a fun name and a fun way to kind of explore the next frontier of technology, and also to bring our community with us, right? So AI can be big and scary and not well understood by folks, but something so simple can show a use case for how it's relevant to folks who are coming to our city website to look for information. Ryan, you started to talk about this a little bit. What are some of the reasons why local governments should focus and invest in civic user research at the local level?
Yeah, I think at the local level, I think, extremely important to conduct civic user research because it gives you another way of engaging your community members and your stakeholders in the products and services that you're responsible for. So, and it doesn't even need to be a technology service either, or a digital application or website. You could conduct civic user research for the experience at the permit counter, or like what it's like getting into city hall and like getting a badge to be able to go talk to someone and have a meeting. Like, so it definitely does not need to be digital. I think we see civic user research as just another way of putting our community members at the heart of what we're doing, and ensuring that the services that we're providing, the products we're building, are not designed in a vacuum. So yeah, I think it's worth investing in, and I think it's important to have tools like the playbook or templates so it's easy for staff and they don't feel like it's this big burden and they're confused about it. Um, Related to that too, it's been so important for us to have an executive kind of champion or sponsor for this work. So shout out to Meredith for supporting the civic user research work at the city leadership level. And I think that buy-in from our city manager's office has been really helpful in getting all of our departments to understand why this is really an important thing they should be focusing on and investing time into.
And I know that you have a way for the use cases to be pitched to your department and to your team. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Like, how do you go about getting new ideas and new use cases, and what are some of those that you might be eager to explore?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways that we're trying to, so I will say we did the cohort that Gati talked about, which was phenomenal. It was a fantastic way of introducing civic user research to nearly 100 city staff people from different departments. The next task on our list is how do we sustain this work? How do we make it easy for everyone to do moving forward? One resource that we've developed is actually a list of interested civic user research participants. So at any point in time, Long Beach residents can sign up to be a Civic user research participant. We have an ongoing form. It's super easy to fill out. We have over 250 people signed up so far, and if they are selected and they complete the test, they are compensated with a $25 gift card. So I have people emailing me being like, why haven't you picked me yet? Or like, when's the next test or whatever. So
That's
I'm
so
hoping that we
great.
can do more soon. Yeah. But yeah, we also my team has been trying to institute civic user research in the products that we are working on in our project. So the AI-based chatbot is a project that my team's working on, and we wanted to lead by example and conduct civic user research for that project. So we had yet another example. And then yeah, our team in our technology and innovation department, we collaborate closely with other departments too. So we try to get ideas for projects and challenges or needs that they have, and then work with them to do pilots and explore those ideas. So we have an open call for ideas right now that we just announced. We also have a program for vendors to submit ideas to us. So we're like intaking in all these ideas, and I think we want to make sure that civic user research is conducted as much as possible for any project that we work on, no matter how big or how small it is.
That's great. And Gati, you talked about something earlier I want to touch upon about, it may not be as hard as you think, right? So we've talked a little bit about some of the ways in which Long Beach has used it, but do you have any tips for other agencies who may be interested in starting their civic user research journey?
Yeah, I think Ryan mentioned one already. I think having that buy-in at the leadership level, executive level, is really really important because not only the employees that are going to actually conduct the civic user research, they will need the space and time within their projects to allow for that. So thinking about how am I going to implement that into my project timeline to allow for that research first before just kind of rolling out an implementation plan, and then having like the supervisors also thinking about that too. When you have that leadership support of allowing that space to. I think something you mentioned earlier too. It's not going to be perfect, right? So allowing that space to mess up and be able to correct it as well. And I think the having that mentality is really important going into it. Also, from coming from the admin background, I also really have to emphasize the importance of thinking of the administrative tasks that go into it as well. The policies, if they may not exist, the policies for, paying people with gift cards or, for this, the work that they do. Just thinking of those things that may be guardrails or maybe stopping you from going through research, I think is really important. And just kind of thinking of those tasks ahead of time is really important, so that way you're not stopped by all these regulations that you didn't know about. So having these conversations and making sure the right people are in the room from the beginning as well is really really important. But I think my big takeaway is also just getting started with something is better than doing nothing. So trying it out is the best course of action, and then you also learn along the way. Like I said, I really did not know what it was like a year ago until I started working with Ryan's team. So everyone has to start from somewhere. So just giving it a try, and then just kind of making the notes and the best practices along the way.
Ryan, what about you? What other tips do you have for agencies who may be interested in starting something like this?
Yeah, I think Gati did a phenomenal job listing a lot of them, and a couple of them came from experience. I
Yeah.
was smiling knowingly there as Gati was talking about the gift card policy and some of the hurdles that we had to overcome to allow for disbursement of electronic gift cards. So I think definitely kind of mapping out the process and ensuring that the city policies support what you want to do is really important. Um, yeah, I think like with anything that's kind of new or novel, it's really important to think about who your champions are. So, like I said earlier, we had a sponsor at the city manager level, but I think now, now that we've introduced more people to this concept, we want to keep engaging those people and getting them to spread the word about this, to their team members and to their department heads. And I think just making this more commonplace, less daunting, less technical sounding is something that we're we're really excited about. Yeah, I don't know if I have too much else to add on that. I think another good thing too, just storytelling. Like,
Yeah.
it's so tempting to do an engagement like this, to do an amazing thing like the cohort, and then just kind of stop. But we really want to tell the story of this, and I know we're working with the U.S. Digital Response now to write a blog post to get the word out about this. And I know maybe Meredith, we can present at one of the city managers meetings about this to get more
That's right.
people bought in. So yeah, I think keep the momentum going. Talk about the story. Talk about the benefits, and show how this can actually make a difference and make an impact.
Yeah, the couple of things that come to mind about what you said as well is this concept of compensating those with the experience and those who have invested their time to help you. And in this case, it's with the gift cards, it's the members of the public. But also, there's a number of acknowledgments and things you've done for, staff on the inside who have participated. And there was a very lovely like graduation presentation for the cohort that I participated in, which was awesome. And then this aspect of relinquishing a little bit of control and allowing for the information that you receive to actually inform the end result, right? I think a lot of times, whether it's internal to a local government organization or an elected body where there's a lot of desire for a particular outcome and you can tend to get in the weeds with things. Part of this is letting what people share with you make something better. And I think that's a really cool part of this and why I am such a big champion of it. And maybe that's just because I've spent a lot of time in the Parks and Rec space where you hear a lot from your community all the time, particularly where I've spent my time in park planning. Like, what do you want your future park to be? Is something that we want to make sure that we're delivering for the community. And that requires a level of relinquishing some control or where you thought you were going to be at the end of something, right? And that can be a scary place for professionals to be. That can be a scary place for folks in government to be, where they're expected, kind of back to the earlier concept of like being right or knowing it all kind of the first time. And being able to say with a level of transparency that, we worked with the community and the community said whatever they said. And so we took that and here's why, something looks the way it does or functions the way it does. And being able to kind of test that over time, which is pretty cool. So I think a lot of this, for other agencies who might be interested in their civic user research journey, is all really good groundwork that others can use. And it's great that it's publicly available on our city's website. All right, so as we wrap up today, let's talk a little bit about what's next for each of you in this particular space. So what is technology and innovation teams that you work with working on that our listeners should look out for? And Gati, we can have you start.
Sure, yeah. I know in the training space, we are currently wrapping up the Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which has been a really big part of my role. But moving forward, just thinking of the future, we have a professional development plan program in the department that I will be looking to improve. But it's a really cool opportunity to work both with the managers and employees, just kind of working with everyone at all levels on professional growth opportunities. Where can people improve their skills? Where do they want to be in the future? And I think this was a cool opportunity to work with civic user research because that was also, I think, a growth opportunity for everyone that was involved. But trying to find more opportunities for people to, you're in this role, but what else can you improve on? What else can you do? What else can you grow in? And what is it that you would like to do? And how can I support you as a training coordinator? How can we support you as the department? So that's some of the cool, exciting things that I'm hoping to continue into the new year.
Yeah, we're still seeing all the time, research that's coming out that says when you invest, authentically in your employees, they are more likely to stay. They're have higher levels of belonging, higher levels of productivity, and all those things are really great strategies to have good people join you and being able to stay and retain them over time. So good work. Ryan, what about you? What's next for you? What are you working on that our listeners should look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think we want to continue championing civic user research. So we'll be continuing to, print flyers and get people to sign up to be civic user researchers in Long Beach, and continue working with staff to get them to understand it and use it in whatever work that they're doing. But beyond that, it is all about AI and data privacy these days for me. Long Beach is really trying to be a leading local government in those two spaces right now. So we're developing a data privacy policy, which will outline a process where the city can evaluate the benefits and risks of new technology from a privacy angle, and make sound decisions with community members involved for how we proceed with new technologies, new and emerging technologies. On the AI space, everyone is tired of hearing about AI at conferences, but
Right.
I think the problem still remains, or not problem, opportunity about how governments will eventually, learn, navigate, and adopt, AI and generative AI systems. So we are working on developing a governance structure and AI policy, and then eventually actually rolling out AI systems that can be used to meet city needs and help our staff provide more efficient, and customer friendly service to members of the public. So yeah, those are some things that I'm really excited about as well. We also just launched the next cohort of our Long Beach Collaboratory, or LB CoLab program, which is a community driven model for pairing community members with city staff to understand key challenges and design solutions to those challenges together. So I'm really excited for that. We're recruiting residents right now. And then I don't know, I'm excited for the holidays. It's been a long year. It's been a busy year. So
Yeah, sounds like it.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pumped for the break and just some time to kind of like recover a little bit, and come back in 2025 renewed and ready to really do some fun stuff and important stuff.
Do either of you have holiday traditions or traditional recipes or things like that that you use to celebrate the holidays?
I've tried to start cookie decorating, so it's not so much a tradition yet, but I tried last year. I am scared to try again because it took way longer than I expected and it was really difficult. So, tentatively, it may become a tradition. We'll see how I feel.
Okay, Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, so I grew up half Jewish actually, so I celebrated Hanukkah and Christmas with my
Oh, that's
family,
very
and
special.
yeah, it's great. But as an adult, I haven't really celebrated Hanukkah myself. So as of last year, we are starting to do our own Hanukkah celebration in addition to Christmas, and this year we're hosting a vodka and latkes party. Latkes are like little potato pancakes that are commonly had during Hanukkah. So this is year 2 of perfecting my recipe, and I'm gonna try to make challah bread this time around, and fingers crossed it goes well.
Oh, well, I want to come over and eat. That sounds amazing. Well, good luck to both of you on your holiday baking experiences, and hope it works out for you. It sounds complicated, and I'm not a good cook, so good on you that you're trying to do stuff. All right, so last question of the day. If you could be the GovLove DJ, what song would you pick as the exit music for the episode?
I'm going to turn this over to Gati.
I do have an elaborate answer. So, so I love musicals. I think I've mentioned this already, but from the movie musical Encanto, I love the song "What Else Can I Do" that they sing. I feel like it really it connects to my work in government. Always thinking about, okay, trying something new. You never know what can happen. Something exciting can come about it. Just trying something different. And I think that goes professionally too. I think that's always really cool to think about. What else can I do? What else can I learn and improve on? So, what else can I do from Encanto? That would be my song that I would add.
I love that. I love that. That's so great. Well, thank you both for joining us today. A big thanks to Ryan and Gati for sharing their civic user research journey. And that ends our GovLove episode for today. Subscribe to GovLove on your favorite podcast app. New episodes drop every Friday. If you are already subscribed to GovLove, go tell a friend or colleague about this podcast or share on social media. Help us spread the word that GovLove is the go-to place for local government stories. GovLove is brought to you by ELGL, Engaging Local Government Leaders. The best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. You can reach us online at elgl.org/govlove or at GovLove Podcast on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. Thanks for listening. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government.
No, careful, it's carnivorous, a little just won't do. I wanna feel the shiver of something new. I'm so sick of pretty, I want something true.